and welcome to Rolling with Two. I'm Will, and with me as always is the wizard of the pinballs herself,
Sarah.
And today we're doing a two-player perspective and accessibility for Super-Skill Pinball 4K. Sarah, tell us a bit about this game.
All right, in Super-Skill Pinball 4K, Jeff Enkelstein brings the arcade classics to the tabletop with art, atmosphere, and roll and write mechanisms. Choose one of the 4 unique tables and matching back glass for scorekeeping. Then roll a shared pair of dice and get the pinballs rolling. Get the high score to win. All right, Will, so how does the game change for 2 players?
There are no changes for a 2-player.
Nope.
There is not even a bot.
Nope. Sorry, Nana Man. No pinball for you.
He's not even like a little plush toy you win for tickets.
There's no, it's not a grab machine.
No.
Okay, so for issues at the 2-player count, we couldn't come up with any. It's multiplayer solitaire, which is what we think, in our opinion, it does right. Although there's going to be people out there that don't like multiplayer solitaire.
Yeah, some people that want to have more player interaction.
Yeah. But generally speaking, roll and writes are typically not high player interaction games.
Yeah. The other thing that they're typically not are thematics. And there's something to be said about this game, which we'll cover in our Rolling with reviews. So check out that video.
All right, moving on to accessibility. I think the biggest challenge to this game is going to be cognitive, and it's learning the game.
Yes.
Because there's so many different moving parts.
Yeah, especially when it gets to multi-ball, where you have 2 balls that are moving around your board. That just almost breaks Sarah.
Yeah. Well, granted, the other thing that most people don't have to deal with is this game is meant to be played simultaneous. Roll the dice, each player marks on their board. But because Will has accessibility challenges in that he can't see the board well enough, so I have to write for him. So we have to play turn-based, where I fill in my board, and then I go and help him with his. Now, I can't just be completely ignorant of what he's doing. I have to be a little bit aware so I can read him the right stuff. So it is almost like I'm playing 1.5 games. So dealing with 1 ball on my board and 1 ball on his board is enough. And then when it gets multi-ball, yeah, that is a lot to handle.
Yes.
Which goes into my next point, is another challenge some people might have is just mobility. And I'm talking more just your hands. If you have hand cramps or wrist problems.
Have trouble holding pins,
yeah,
things like that.
This game is pretty intense. You're going to be moving that little ball around. You're going to be marking things up. You're going to be erasing things. You do a lot of movement in this game with your hands. So that's just something to keep in mind, that if you have those kind of challenges, or they sometimes are problems, you just got to evaluate the game on what you feel like you can handle. But it does right. The graphic design is great. And I don't normally say that about, normally there's some problem with roll and writes when it comes to graphic design. These boards are busy, I will say that.
Yeah.
But that adds to the thematics, which again, we'll talk about in the Rolling with review. But otherwise, it's very clear where things are. And the 2 colors they use are red and yellow, which
stand out very well.
Yeah, I don't. Are there any colorblind challenges on those 2 colors?
No, because I think there's such highly different contrasts.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
That even if you grayscaled everything out, you could still see and play the game.
That's true. The also great thing is, on the whole cognitive aspect, they recommend playing Carnival as your intro game because it is the simplest. It does not have a mini game in it like the other 3 do, which adds more for you to consider.
Speaking of which, you can actually try it out.
Yes. I will provide a link down in the show notes. You can go to WizKids to the page about Super-Skill Pinball 4K, and they give you Carnival and what's the one on the back side? The
something hack.
Yes,
Cyber hack.
Cyber hack.
So you can see one with a minigame.
Yeah, so you can compare them, but then you can also play them. Now they're reduced, they're simplified, I should say simplified, only in that you don't get a back glass, you get the all-in-one sheet. So that makes it easier to print out. But you will need to either laminate it so you can do dry erase, or use pencil, because you again need to be able to erase.
Or You actually found an interesting thing on Amazon where it's these pockets that you just slip a piece of paper in, and you can automatically turn any pieces of paper into a dry erase board.
Yes. They're meant for schools, so you can just look up dry erase pockets for school or something like that, and they're pretty common now. So, and also, since they are PDFs, if you know how to do on devices, there are certain programs, and I am not savvy at this part, you can import it and use a pen to do it with your tablet.
Yeah.
That's all I know about there. Okay, so you can always try it out to see if it's too much for you. And lastly, it's all open information. So if there is any problems that you're having with anything, you can hopefully ask somebody at the table. So conclusion for 2 players, Will.
If you're fine with solo play or the multiplayer solo,
solitaire.
yes, absolutely, yes. And you?
Yeah, I think it's great at 2 players, but I think it could also be great at any player count. And it's one of those things that while this box only has 4 sheets, if you print out the ones, you could play this with infinite number of people. In fact, you could just look up solo scores and you could compare against those because there's absolutely nothing that you compete over.
Right. Accessibility.
I would say yes for the most part. The one thing is we have heard from some friends that there are some players who cannot cognitively grok this for a variety of reasons, just because it is so different with that physical aspect of moving that ball. Yeah.
Yeah, because they divide the board up into 4 main sections, and your ball's in any one of those 4 sections at any given time.
Yeah.
And that's the section you have to focus in on, or the one below it as the ball falls.
Right. So could have some problem with people not quite understanding how it's supposed to be simulating a pinball machine, which is tilted so that you have gravity. And so if you're in a middle zone, you have to keep going down.
All I can say is kids these days, they don't know what a real pinball machine is.
But for all it does, this game really does a good job simulating it. But for now, I do think for the most part, this is accessible.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, that will do it for us. And Sarah.
Yes.
If there was a pinball arcade machine that they make out of this and has a new IP or new sort of thing, what would it be for you?
Oh, you know me, I'd love to go 80s retro, have My Little Pony or Care Bears or, I mean, even the Turtles. I just think that would be, that would be actually a great 4-pack because there's multiple sets. So you can find like Star Trek and...
so like the 80s Saturday morning cartoon.
80s Saturday morning cartoon pack where you would have, those type of things in them. What about you?
I would go with like a historical war setting.
Oh, that's
And so
heavy.
it'd be 4 different battles that are shown up there.
You have to get a naval battle in there.
Yeah, a
That'd be
naval
fun.
battle, maybe something having to do with the Air Force, an Army battle.
Yeah.
That type of thing.
That would be cool.
Yes. All right, and why would you ever roll with just one when you can be rolling with 2? And remember, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can reach out to us on the various social media platforms at
Rolling with 2. That's TWO. We are on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And on YouTube, please like and subscribe.
And if you have time, check out the other content Nanaman has found for you, because remember, he's rolling with you.